Good evening and welcome to the 2015 Candidate Forum. First and foremost, thank you very much to the Fremont County Board of Commissioners and specifically Commissioner Norden for providing the facility and the technology that are going to allow us to conduct this event. Also want to thank our sponsors, KRLN Radio, the Canyon City Chamber of Commerce, and the Canyon City Daily Record. Thank you very much for that. We have a kind of four components to our meeting tonight. The first component is going to be a discussion on the issues that we're going to see on our ballots. So we're going to have three experts in. They're going to educate you as to what's going on those items, and then we're going to move into the candidate section. In the second section, we'll give the candidates for Canyon City RE School District School Board the opportunity to introduce themselves, and then we're going to move into the question section. So we have a series of questions. We're going to ask the candidates to answer those questions to give the citizens their best understanding of how they view these various different issues. In doing that, we'll finally resolve the entire evening with kind of an overview and give the candidates an opportunity to close out with their final statements. So we have a lot to cover, and we're going to get right to this. So as far as the Proposition BB, we have Senator Kevin Grantham here to discuss that, and it's my privilege to turn the lectern over to Senator Grantham. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Just to put you all at ease, I will not be hopefully taking the entire 8 minutes, and I will get out of your hair as soon as possible. BB came about because in 2013, voters approved Proposition AA, and that authorized the excise and sales tax on retail marijuana. However, the Colorado Constitution, with the special rules surrounding Tabor and other things, not just Tabor, it put us in a situation where these newly approved taxes from AA in their first year would actually revert not go to the intended purpose that we have in AA, which was to come back mostly to schools and to school construction funding. Because of all this, the state owes, at this point, taxpayers and the marijuana cultivators and the marijuana consumers a one-time refund on additional revenues collected from those marijuana taxes, the retail marijuana taxes, unless voters approve a different method and a different way to spend those refund dollars. So Proposition BB addresses this one-time need. This is not something that we'll have to vote on again. This is something that will be taken care of in this first year. It's a first-year snafu rule that will be taken care of through BB, so that these additional revenues from the retail marijuana will go to fund school construction, as well as some law enforcement on the local level, some substance abuse prevention, youth services, just as the voters actually intended with Proposition AA back in 2013. Proposition BB came on the ballot via the state legislature in House Bill 1367. That was passed and then signed by the governor and is now the only statewide measure on your ballots, which you will be receiving shortly. So what does BB do exactly? Well, this proposition asks the voters of Colorado to permit the state to retain all those marijuana tax revenues collected during the first full year of the new Proposition AA taxes. Otherwise, like I said before, it would all have to be refunded back to not just the taxpayers, but also to the marijuana industry, specifically the marijuana cultivators, and the marijuana consumers. Voters have already twice voted in favor of these taxes on legal marijuana sales, and the passage of Proposition BB, and I can't emphasize this enough, Proposition BB will actually put into place exactly what the Colorado voters have already given us in the first two Proposition AA and Amendment 64. Whether you like marijuana or not, the voters did have an intent. And the intent was for this tax revenue to go to school, to fund school construction and a few other things. What the intent was not was that it be returned back en masse to the cultivators and to the consumers of marijuana. So what will happen if Proposition BB does not pass? Let's start there. Proposition BB, if not passed this election, will take the dollars that would otherwise be going, if it passes, $25 million of that will actually be refunded back to the Colorado taxpayer via a refund on the Colorado tax returns this coming year for your 2015 taxes. This will amount to roughly about $8 per resident of Colorado. So $25 million to the taxpayer in refund. $24 million will be returned to the marijuana cultivators. This will be paid back to them via also a direct refund back to them, but $17.1 million will also be refunded to the retail marijuana purchasers via a reduction in the sales tax rate at marijuana retail locations. So $25 million to the taxpayers, to the residents of Colorado, $24 million to the cultivators, and $17.1 million to the retail consumers. What if BB passes? And this is getting back to the voters' intent with Amendment 64 and with Proposition AA. $40 million will go to school construction through the Building Excellent Schools Today program, the BEST program. And that was the main intent through 64 especially, that the money would be used for the marijuana tax revenue, the retail marijuana tax revenue. $12 million will also be spent on various other state programs, including, and this is a long laundry list, but it's $2.5 million to marijuana education, $2 million to school bullying prevention, $2 million to grants for programs preventing school dropout, $2 million to youth mentoring services, $1 million to the poison control centers, $1 million to local government marijuana impact grants, as well as $500,000 to substance abuse screening, $500,000 to substance abuse treatment, and $300,000 to FFA and 4-H programs at the Colorado State Fair. There's also another $200,000 to training peace officers to help recognize impaired drivers. So that's what the yes vote on Proposition BB means. It means it will go back to what the original intent was with Amendment 64 and with Proposition AA. So the choice, at least for me, and I certainly am a supporter of BB, that's why I'm up here, but the choice for me is pretty clear. We can either put the money where it was intended to be, and like I said, it doesn't matter whether or not you like marijuana or not, or liked 64 or not. The intent was clear that the tax revenue was to go to education and the capital construction in education. And currently, this first year of tax revenues, that is not what is going to happen. So BB will actually plug that hole and make sure that the money goes where it was intended to through Amendment 64 and Proposition AA, getting back to voters' intent. So thank you all very much. I appreciate it. And it looks like my time is up. Rob.
Thank you, Senator Grantham. The next issue is the ballot measure 1A, and we're going to ask Steve Caverman to join us at the podium and discuss that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and for everyone who's watching us out there in television or listening on radio or whatever. Good to have you interested in this particular item. Issue 1A that is on the county ballot seeks voter reauthorization of an existing lodging tax in Fremont County It is a 2% lodging tax that is levied on hotel and motel rooms, guest ranches, campgrounds, and similar overnight accommodations. That's important to note because as Fremont County voters and Fremont County citizens and taxpayers, you don't pay the tax. It's paid by visitors to the area or people that are spending the night in our overnight accommodations. In 2015, it is estimated that that particular revenue source will generate somewhere on the order of $140,000. That money is used to promote Fremont County, the Royal Gorge region, and its communities as a destination for visitors and for tourists. It's known in the industry as destination marketing. Simply, what do we do to attract people to come to this area? Visit our hotels, eat in our restaurants, stay in our hotels, stay in our hotels, I said that, and engage in various activities, visit attractions and so on throughout the county and throughout the region. We also publish about 100,000 visitor guides a year. That's an actual magazine, like a visitor's guide. It's loaded with advertising. It includes information about the history of the area, about attractions and so on. Regrettably, I forgot to bring one with me this evening, or I would have it here in my hand to show you. But those are distributed all over the state at state visitor centers, various roadside stands and other stands where you can pick up brochures and travel information. About 90,000 of them are distributed in that order, and the other 10,000 or so, actually this year about 10,300, are distributed on request, fulfillment, actually mailed to recipients because they specifically request them, and those go out all over the country. We also maintain RoyalGorgeTravel.com, which is the region's official website, using that money. So that's what we spend roughly $140,000 on. This year, 2015, we're also able to get some support from the City of Canyon City, which we thank them for. That was very helpful. We also received a grant from the Colorado Tourism Office, which assisted with our marketing efforts. Notably, we have more demand still for our visitor guides than we're able to fulfill. This year, even though we fulfilled just over 10,000 of those requests, we probably could have fulfilled another 5,000 or so had we the funds available. Now, what kind of impact does tourism have on this area? Well, statewide, it's huge. In the state of Colorado, it's responsible for 155,300 jobs in 2014, bringing in 71.3 million visitors to the state who spent $18.6 billion, which generated just over $1 billion in tax revenue. That's taxes generated then by visitor spending that taxpayers in Colorado don't have to pay, which I think everyone's in favor of. Taxes you don't have to pay are taxes I think everybody pretty much likes. And so aside from that, it's just a great return on the investment. The Colorado Tourism Office studies indicate that for every dollar spent on paid media to promote tourism in the state, the Colorado Tourism Office was able to generate, through their efforts, a return on the investment of about $361. I don't know too many investors that wouldn't take that deal. Put in $1, get $361 back. Boiling that down to our local level here, our research following the marketing we did in 2014, following the fire of 2013, again, scaling down for Fremont County, still a great return on investment. Our research shows that for every dollar we invested locally here in Fremont County, again, through the efforts of the Fremont County Tourism Council, investing that lodging tax, we got a $78 return for every dollar we invested. So again, as an investor, I think any of us would take that kind of a deal as well. It's a whole lot better than you get at the bank these days. In the county, just in Fremont County, travel spending in 2014 was almost $60 million, $58.7 million. Earnings of $13.6 million, that's earnings to not just hotels that are collecting lodging fees, but also to all kinds of businesses, either directly related to tourism and those ancillary to tourism. People come here to visit the area, they get flat tires, they buy gasoline, they do a lot of things that are not directly tourism related, but benefit a lot of other businesses in the community and throughout the county. Our employment in the county, about 750 people that are with jobs directly related to tourism. Now those are directly tourist related jobs. So raft guides, people working in the hotels, people doing, you know, horseback rides, ATV tours, working at the bridge and park, those kinds of things that are directly related to tourism. And naturally, there's a bunch of other jobs that are sort of on the radar screen that don't fit into that number that are indirectly related to tourism. Generated $1.4 million in local taxes and $1.7 million in state taxes. That's just here in Fremont County. So it's a big deal. If we were to discontinue this tax, the efforts of the Fremont County Tourism Council and our destination marketing efforts would cease unless we came up with another funding source. And I can tell you from experience on the Colorado Tourism Office Board of Directors and experience in tourism now dating back several decades, that if we stop advertising, if we stop telling people about us and encouraging them to come here, they won't. They will find someplace else to go. You got to keep it at the front of their mind, or they simply won't come. Now, some people naturally will still come, but the numbers would be much lower. And so I think it's a great investment. It's great for the county. It creates a lot of jobs and generates a lot of revenue to local businesses and taxes to the benefit of local citizens. So I would encourage voters to vote yes on issue 1A, reauthorizing the lodging tax for an indefinite period. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Steve. Our final issue, referendum 2C. Mayor Tony Greer is going to give us a discussion on that point. Thank you very much. Mayor Greer.
Thank you. I thought somebody else was going to do this. Weed? Okay. So the City Council is asking citizens to vote yes on issue number 2C. Now the reason for that is, it may not be a secret to anyone in here, but our streets are in horrible condition. And I would say that the number one complaint that any of us have received serving on City Council is the condition of our streets. And any of you that drove here or rode a bicycle here or walked here today could attest to that. So there are a couple of issues that I wanted to bring up. There are 115 miles of streets within city limits. 25% of those streets are considered satisfactory or excellent. 22% of those streets, about 25 miles, need to be repaired, and 53%, 61 miles, are beyond repair and maintenance, and they require complete reconstruction. So we have chosen to allow half of our streets to fall into disrepair, and that was a knowledgeable choice that we made. Not we like City Council, but we as citizens. So the cost to construct the entire city street system in today's dollars would exceed $155 million. Maintaining, repairing, and reconstructing our streets to bring them all just into conformance would require about $10 million a year for 20 years. Now in 1975, the city's mill levy for property tax was in excess of 19 mills. Today that would generate about $2.8 million of city revenue. At that time, the City Council committed to the community that property taxes would be kept low as a new sales tax was put into place. And today, our mill levy is around 2.9 mills, which will generate about $383,000 per year into the city coffers. Usually, communities with a lower mill levy like this are casino towns, or they have one or more large regional shopping centers. They're a tourist destination with resort communities, or they're very, very small communities. In 1993, the voters of our community, in response to a citizen-initiated charter amendment that would have repealed the city sales tax on food, voted 58% to 42% to margin to retain the city's sales tax on food. Our city has become heavily reliant on sales tax revenue. Now, our infrastructure which didn't require significant funds while it was newer and in reasonable condition, has been getting older, and we have not had the budget to properly maintain those. So council members recognize that it's not possible for our community to immediately assemble the level of funding that our streets now require. In fact, it would take our entire general fund for the next 20 years to get all of our streets in a reasonable condition. So we've thought about it, we've considered it in our budget every year. Currently, we have about $400,000 a year to spend on materials to maintain our streets. Now, our entire street budget is about $1.9 million, so a lot of that is labor and just overhead of having a street department. We have 14 employees, but it's not nearly enough to construct any new roads or replace the ones that we have. That's strictly a maintenance budget. So an obvious question is, why is the city only budgeted $400,000 a year for streets out of an $11 million budget? But it costs about $11 million to run the city. In fact, in the last 6 years, we've reduced staffing in the city by 10.4%. Now, those were recessionary times, and a lot of belt-tightening went on in the private sector and the public sector. We originally considered a 1.5% increase in sales tax. We didn't think that that would have a chance in passing. In exchange for that 1.5% sales tax, we had considered eliminating the property tax altogether. The City Council did not think that was in our best interest, and in fact, we have had inquiries from people that wanted to invest, companies that wanted to invest in our community, and when they found out that our mill levy was so inexpensive, it had the opposite effect that you might think. They said, if you're not willing to invest in your community, we're not willing to invest in your community either. And your budget does not allow you to maintain your community at the standards that we would want for our employees. So we've fielded a number of questions regarding this issue in the past month since it was introduced. And one question is, how's this tax rate increase going to affect our citizens? And when you shop in Canyon City and you spend $100, it's going to cost you $1 more. One of the questions is, would this increase cause people to leave town to shop in Pueblo or other locations? I suppose that if you're going to spend a significant amount of money, it may be worth the time and the gas to drive to Pueblo or Colorado Springs, but you'd have to spend a lot of money to make it economically feasible to shop somewhere else. So another question that frequently comes up is, why would there be an increase in the sales tax rate when the city's spending so much money downtown? Well, in any business, and a lot of times people like to say we should run our government like a business, we're not a for-profit entity. But in any organization, when you have a budget deficit, you have to do two things. You have to increase revenue, and you have to decrease expenses. For 5 years, we've decreased our expenses. We've decreased our expenses to the point we can't feasibly decrease those anymore. We have to look at ways of generating revenue. Since we're so heavily dependent on sales tax, we try to figure out ways where we could create more sales volume without a tax increase. Part of that is the Main Street revitalization. Another part of that is the planned improvements to Fremont Drive to allow easier access to those Fremont Drive businesses so we can collect more sales tax. So not only do we have to create more taxpayers, but we have to create more tax revenue. So I mentioned earlier that we need $10 million per year to adequately maintain and improve our streets. 1% increase in sales tax is going to bring in approximately $3.5 million more. So where is the balance going to come from? The short answer is we don't have an answer. This is a start. This allows us to maintain the roads that are in good condition and slowly but surely improve those roads. And as we continue to make other improvements and increase the availability of those sales tax dollars by creating more interest in spending money in our community, we're hoping that we'll make up a large part of that difference. So there's a recent letter to the editor of the Daily Record that stated that the city's revenue for 2014 was $1 million higher than anticipated because of increased sales tax revenue and a payment from the Royal Gorge Bridge. And those things are true. But during the 2014 budget, because we had the Royal Gorge fire and we anticipated a large reduction in funding, which we had, we reduced our budget by 10%. So when we received a windfall of $1 million more in 2014 than we anticipated. We had to replace our reserve because we are so heavily dependent on sales tax revenue and not necessarily property tax revenue, which is more stable. We have to think more like a sales entity because our income is very unpredictable. On a good year, it's high, and on a bad year, it's low. Property tax is all pretty consistent. So we have to have more reserve than more of our comparable communities in the area. So we chose to put, thank you. Well, we had to put some of that money back into the reserve to ensure the future of our community. So vote yes on 2C.
That was a very effective time announcement. Thank you for that. And thank all of the speakers tonight on these issues. Now, we purposely positioned these tonight because tomorrow night and Thursday night we're going to have candidates for city council and candidates for mayor of Canyon City that are going to be discussing these issues in earnest, as you can imagine. So we wanted to put those issues out there so you knew what the perspective was, and then you can take it from there and participate in those upcoming events, okay? I'm Rob Brown with Fremont Economic Development Corporation, and I'm going to be the moderator tonight for this question and answer session. This is not a formal debate. This is quite the opposite. This is a casual event. This is a forum. This is an open dialogue between candidates and our citizens. That's what we intend to accomplish tonight. So we're going to ask these candidates to answer questions in a 1-minute time limit. So we're going to keep this thing moving along at a pretty good pace. Now, if one of the candidates in their 1 minute chooses to mention one of the other candidates by name, we are going to give that candidate the opportunity to rebut in a 30-second rebuttal. Now, these questions were provided to us by citizens through our sponsors, through the Daily Record and through KRLN Radio. We assemble these questions, so we feel like this is a good representative sampling of the questions. So I'm going to very eloquently try to turn this podium around the other direction so I could address the candidates. So here we go. No damage done. Okay, first and foremost, we're going to give everybody an opportunity to, in a word, state how they want to be viewed by the citizens. So as an example, I'm Rob Brown, and I'm a citizens advocate. So a single word, a single phrase. We'd like for each of you to put that out there so we know where you stand, so we can move on. So Mr. Odo, what is your one word or short statement there?
Well, before I say the word, I just want to correct you. It is Otto.
Otto,
People say Odo, but
I
just,
apologize.
there are some people in the audience that get upset when.
Otto, I got it. I know that too. I apologize. I'm reading instead of thinking.
Integrity.
Integrity.
Dedicated.
Dedicated.
Go-getter.
Go-getter.
Proactive.
Proactive.
Taxpayer representative.
Taxpayer representative. Thank you very much for that. Okay, great. Now, each of you is going to get 1 minute to make an opening statement. Anything that you want to say, make your point in the 1 minute, and then we'll move on. What I'm going to do as each of these questions are asked, I'm going to start from my right and move, so everybody gets an opportunity to be the first and the last. Mr. Harwood?
Well, thank you for hosting this. I think I'll just take my time and introduce myself to folks who may not know me. Lloyd Harwood. I own Harwood Funeral Home and have an interest in America's Best Value Inn here in Canyon City, so I am active in the community as a business owner. I have children who've gone through the school system. My daughter graduated a couple years ago, and my son is currently in the high school, Canyon City High School. I grew up here. My wife and I grew up in Fremont County. I graduated from Florence High School, but you won't hold that against me, but no, I'm just joking for whoever's watching from Florence. But, and I am an incumbent. You know, I've had 4 years that we've taken to deal with the recession and a lot of the negative parts that affected our financials. I think we've turned around to a good degree and want an opportunity to continue to better the education for our students, because that's what it's all about.
Thank you. Ms. Economy?
Hi, I'm Kristen Economy, and I'm proud to be here before you guys today as a teacher and as a mother. I was a teacher until about 5 years ago when my position was eliminated through the school district budget cuts. But simultaneous to that, I ended up having a baby. So it turned out that I could be a stay-at-home mom the last several years, and I've continued to remain active in our community, most consistently on getting trails built in our community, being active for those trails. I'm working on a trail grant right now to connect like the Eco Park up onto Temple Canyon area trails. But beyond that, focusing on education, I want us to remember that public education is one of our community's best buys. We all benefit from having high quality education in the area. It's time once again for our community to rally around our schools and really stand up for what we believe in. Let's support our teachers who have not had a salary step increase in 6 years. Healthy schools equal a healthy community. Thanks.
Now, and obviously I blew Otto already, right? So Nancy Bartkowiak, give me a little help on
Very
that
close, Bart Koviak.
name. Bartkowiak, got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, and thank you for joining us this evening. I grew up in a small town in Florida. We moved here 8 years ago when my husband retired from the fire service. And my one goal when we moved was to move to a small community. I was born and raised in a small community. When I got married, we moved to a suburb of Orlando. It did not have one community high school. It did not have one community parade. And that was one of my big requirements when we were looking for a place to move, was to come to a small town that had a community feel, that had one high school we could rally around, one school system we could rally around. And so I have loved Canyon City. We've been here about 8 years. I also have children in the school district that have gone through elementary, middle, and some are finished high school, some are still in high school. But I love Canyon City, and I feel like the school system is the foundation of this community. So I'd like to contribute to that.
Thank you. Mr. Barton?
Okay. The taxpayers of this community are not getting their money's worth if they look at the school system. At the moment, look at the results. The 10th graders over the past few years have varied between 28 and 29% proficient in math. The science, 44%. How are they going to succeed in today's society if we can't get that better, at least up to the average for the state, which it's not? Now, also, some parts of the school system have not been properly maintained. There is not a reserve large enough to do a re-roofing job on either the middle school or the high school, and those roofs are in dangerous condition. 50 years is too long for that type of a roof. So I'm here to try to turn things around and get decent education for our funds.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to get into the meat of the thing right now. We're going to start talking about questions. If I'm correct on my...
Did you let Larry speak?
Oh, I'm sorry. We missed Larry. See, Larry, I'm just abusing the heck out of you tonight. I apologize.
That's because Odo left the building.
Yeah, Odo's out of the building. Otto's in. Larry, go do your thing. I apologize. I'll get this right by Thursday night, I promise.
Shift so I could see you.
Larry, tell us.
So I have a little bit
This
more of
is
a personal
fine.
statement than a
I can
political
see-
statement.
I can see that, but not you.
So,
Okay.
I'm Larry. I moved here 10 years ago to purchase the winery, Holy Cross Abbey. Prior to that, I spent 22 years practicing as a CPA in New York City. Graduated from the Wharton School of Business in 1983. I'm married 27 lovely years to a lovely wife, Diane, who's a librarian over at Canyon Exploratory School. I have one daughter, Emily, who graduated Canyon City High School last year. One of the primary reasons I moved to Canyon City was to be able to live and work in the same community and have, have that ability to make a positive impact. So over the last 10 years, I've served in a number of capacities. President of the Rotary Chamber of Commerce, Fremont County Tourism Council, as well as on other boards of community organizations. 4 years ago, I was elected to this position. Despite difficult financial circumstances, I believe I have been impactful in a good way. And I've enjoyed working with my fellow board members who have differing opinions and different viewpoints, but they set aside their personal agendas to come together to make good educational policy and good financial decisions that benefit the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we'll get into the meat of it. Everybody's had a chance, right? I didn't inadvertently eliminate somebody. Now, where am I starting? I'm starting with Kristen Economy. Okay, thank you. All you have to do is open the newspaper, look on the television, whatever the situation might be, and you see this compelling need for safety in the schools. I'd like for you and for all of you to share your point of view on how safety is in our schools currently and how you feel about that going forward.
Yes, I think our schools really do work hard to provide for the safety of our children. It is a big concern. It's a different school environment from one in which I've grown up in and you guys have all grown up in. But I know from myself and my own experience as a teacher, we all took safety drills very seriously. The students took them seriously. We know what to do. The students practice. I think they should continue to practice in the schools as well. But we also have to keep an open mind that for some of these young kids who don't really have a full grasp of what it really means, what are we really practicing more? And it can be kind of scary for them as well. And I know those teachers of the young kids work hard. I think we need to continue on the same path of practicing these drills, whether it be a fire drill or a lockdown drill, and really consistently find out what works and continue on that path. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bartkowiak.
Thank you. Yes, I know that the schools have been working very hard recently with the safety and the children. That some of the district employees have come up with new plans. That is some of the new things that have been going on today in our school system with lockdowns, with she confuses us with the time over there, by the way, showing us time. But with evacuation of schools, and I know every day we're seeing more and more colleges with shootings. So I think we have to continue to work with our local authorities, the Canyon City PD, the Fremont Sheriff's Office, and they are the authorities on the safety and the well-being of our children. They're the ones that are going to be responding into our school systems when something were to happen. So to partner with them, with the school system, in order to come up with the best plan for each of the schools, because each school is very different. And expressing that with, or explaining that with the parents so that they understand.
Thank you very much. Mr. Barton?
For safety in the schools, well, of course, we need to have CPR and first aid instruction for all teachers and staff so that any student who does hurt himself can be properly cared for. We also need to monitor everyone in the schools for mental illnesses. This is a national problem, not just a local one, but the mental health care system is rather weak and needs some additional work because if you'll notice, every one of the mass shooting events in the past few years has involved someone who is mentally ill and not being properly treated. Most of them are on medications. And then finally, if we were to run into something like that, this may be the time to arm the teachers and the staff. If they have a concealed carry, let them use it.
Thank you. Mr. Otto?
Yeah, safety, it's something that keeps us board members awake at night. We hired back Paula Boozer from a job that she went to a couple years ago in the role of Director of Support Services, and safety is one of her paramount concerns, and has been working very diligently to update policies and work with the schools for the aforementioned drills and procedures. We have a good relationship with the City of Canyon City, and we share with them some resource officers that provide some safety for the kids on campus. Are we perfect? No. Is it a resource issue? It certainly is. We don't have the money to invest in the infrastructure to provide a safer environment for our kids. It was actually part of the thing that we asked for the public 2 years ago, was to provide a little additional money to provide some safety improvements and putting locks on doors and key passes, and it didn't happen. So as much as people say that it's a concern, it may not be.
Thank you very much. Mr. Harwood?
Well, absolutely, safety is important, and over the past several years, we have really worked very diligently in increasing our safety measures at our schools. If you're a parent who receives the notices, just last week or the past 2 weeks, you would have known that we did reunification drills, we did lockdowns, lockouts at the schools. you know, it's vitally important to do that. I've been at those when those schools have those. They notify me so that I can go if I'm available to witness and see how exactly we're doing it, how the staff is doing it, how well they're trained. Like Larry said, is everything perfect? No, but it has certainly gotten much better. It's something that we continue, and I will continue as a board member to work to have a better and safer environment for our students. And we do have a good working relationship with both the city police department as well as the sheriff's office, who takes care of McKinley, that's out there. So it's just something that's a continual, never-ending process for us.
Thank you very much. Okay, next question. This is an opportunity question. If you had the opportunity to do anything that you want, what is the single change that you would make to the system? Whether it's curricula, funding, whatever the situation is, what is that situation or what is that circumstance that you would like to change? Ms. Barkowiak?
I think we'd all probably say funding, because money goes a long way. So between funding for the infrastructure of our schools, which was already mentioned, that because of financial burdens lately, we've not been able to maintain our schools like we would like to. We would also like to give the teachers, the paraprofessionals, all of the staff raises. So I think funding, without a doubt, would be my number one thing I'd like to change.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Barton?
Well, the first thing that I would do is get math and science specialist teachers for every student from fourth grade and up, like the Mrs. Manning I had when I was in elementary school. And I would use those teachers to teach math and science in a way that is very different from that of Common Core math. And in particular, I would do what Nobel laureate Richard Feynman suggested soon after his time as a member of a California school book committee, to use science in teaching math. For example, stoichiometry, which is the ratios of elements in various compounds, and the balancing of chemical reactions could be very easily used for lots of practice math and algebra and arithmetic problem sets.
Thank you very much. Mr. Otto?
Actually, I'm going to focus on something that's a little more within our control, local control. Nancy, I would change funding if we could. And I would teach curriculum that I wanted to teach as opposed to what the state says we need to teach and what our kids need to learn. But something that's a little more in our control is and something that I've talked about over the 4 years is that, you know, we have a district that has shrunk a little bit, and we're operating excess space here. And I'd like to see the money that goes towards operating and maintaining that space back into the classroom. And so that would require a little bit of consolidation, but consolidation in a thoughtful way that does not impact the lives of the kids in a negative way, but in a positive way. Similar to what we did with expanding the exploratory model and creating the Lincoln School of Science and Technology. If we can look at the way that we deliver education and curriculum in a more imaginative, creative way, and reduce size doing that, reducing the size of the buildings, that would be great.
Thank you. Mr. Harwood?
Well, of course, it goes to funding, just like everyone said, because we can do so many things with the funding. 63% of our budget comes from the state. Only 28% comes from property taxes here locally, and another 9% comes from the federal government and other areas. So if we had a better funding mechanism, we could increase the infrastructure in our schools. You're absolutely right, the roofs need done. There's about $20 million worth of things that need to be done in the infrastructure of these schools. That has not been able to be done over time. And also, we do have choice in our elementary schools. I'd like us to have more opportunities in the high school. Not every student's going to go to college, and that's okay, but they need to be ready to go to they need to be workforce ready, they need to be, if they're going in the military, if they're going to vocational schools, and we need to be able to expand those opportunities within the high school to make sure each of those students have those opportunities when they leave, and that they are ready for whatever they're going to do.
Thank you very much. Ms. Economy?
Yes, I wrote down funding immediately as you said that. Absolutely. You know, an increase in funding would be a dream for our community since we are a floor-funded school district. However, that aside, if we do focus on the more local concerns, I'm really also interested in seeing more vocational educational opportunities for our students. I think it's a real need in our blue-collar community. We can prepare everybody for college, but not everybody wants to go. They don't need to go. We need plumbers. We need carpenters. We need people to work on cars. I think that's really an opportunity that we're lacking that we can hold on to right now in Canyon City, something that we need to look at pretty quickly. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We've got the round, correct? Okay. Mr. Barton, you'll be the first. We have a new opportunity here. We have a new superintendent. And the question is how does the role of the school board interface or interact with the superintendent? How would you imagine that to best work?
Well, the state law makes it really clear that the school board is ultimately responsible for everything that happens and is responsible, among other things, for hiring and or firing the superintendent. And we will need to work closely with him as much as possible to try to get the curriculum changes that are necessary to see our students actually succeed and get these buildings properly maintained using the funds that we have available.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Otto?
Yeah, hi. I mean, our role is not only to govern the district, but it's to support the superintendent's vision. We hired Mr. Welsh from another district. He's a former Colorado Superintendent of the Year. We were able to do that in part because of our excellent reputation in the state as far as being a functional and effective school board. So that's clearly what I view the school board's role is to support his vision. Now, he's made it clear that the single most important thing to him is to address the biggest thing that we have control over, and that is the quality of education that a kid receives in the classroom. He has worked in his past district and is working with current school building leaders to bring SB 191 into effect in a non-confrontational way, in a way that's going to improve our instruction in the classroom, and he's going to provide that instructional leadership, and that's what we're going to do. Is going to support him.
Thank you. Mr. Harwood?
Yeah, I was part of course, on the school board that hired Mr. Welch, and the superintendent is the only employee the school board does a review for and has direct authority over. We need to be in constant communication with our superintendent, and he's very transparent. He's he's in the schools every week, kind of management by walking around, keeps us informed of what's going on. We have great dialogue with him, and we need to continue to do that, have constant dialogue with the superintendent, make sure he understands the vision, as well as working with him to set that vision for our school district, again, to accomplish the things that we want, which is ultimately providing the best education for our students.
Great, thank you. Ms. Economy?
Yes. Definitely. I feel that the board's job is to work together, to collaborate with the superintendent. Again, as has been mentioned, the superintendent really does care about kids. I've met with him on a few occasions, and it's really intriguing to hear about his ideas and his vision, and everything is really, really positive. He likes what he sees in the classrooms, and he comes with a new set of ideas as well, things that may have worked also in the past, or new ideas that are brand new for our community that he's seen before. I'm also really intrigued by this new evaluation tool that the board has come up with for the superintendent. I think that'll be a great tool to let everybody know how he's doing. And lastly, I think some of his ideas the community will really value, like having a monthly report card for the state of our buildings to really know what's going on. What do these buildings need? How can we fix those? And he does weekly blog posts as well about where he's been, where he's going to go. So there's definitely a lot of transparency. We know who he is up front. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Barkowiak?
Yes, thank you. So I do also believe we have to work together hand in hand. I know that he's our only employee as the school board, but obviously, his ideas and our ideas have to go together. And so we have to work for the betterment of each of the schools, school employees, as well as the students. I also have met with Superintendent Welsh. I thank the board for bringing him to Canyon City. I think he's a huge asset to our schools and our community. I've seen him at many community events. He ran the Rim to Rim with us. So he's hand in hand with the community, and I appreciate that in a superintendent. He's not just for the school system, he's also for the community.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Otto, this is your question, I believe. What do you see as the most significant opportunity that we have coming up over the next year as far as our school district is concerned?
I think we have the opportunity to increase our performance in the schools. I think we have a superintendent that's going to really show the support to building leaders and teachers and support professionals to really kind of buckle down and take a hard look at what we're doing in the classroom and how we improve that instruction. I think that for all the criticism that this district receives for not getting the scores on the tests or the grades to attract people into this community, or to have people move here and come to our school district, I think we have a great opportunity to make some movement on that and improve that. And the overall beneficiaries of that is going to be the kids of our community.
Great. Mr. Harwood?
Well, I hate to, agree with Larry and copy his answer, but he is absolutely right, because the new superintendent we have, and I always talk to him, I say, it's management by walking around. He's in those schools, he's meeting with the teachers, he's meeting with the support staff, and that really is critical. These are the people that have the day-to-day interaction with your students, whether they're the bus driver, the folks that work in food service, custodian. We need to, everything from improving morale, being in the classroom, to watch instruction, give guidance in those areas, see exactly what our curriculum's like. He brings that to the table. We have that opportunity to just really make inroads in improving our education just in that area, and I think that's where our focus will be for this next year.
Great, thank you very much. Ms. Economy?
You stole my answer, Mr. Harwood. I think we're kind of on the same page, yes. I'm going to take it a step deeper, though, because how can you improve student achievement? And the best way, the way you're going to do that on the front really is continuing to retain those high-quality educators and our support staff. Now, right now, like I mentioned previously, teachers have not had a salary step increase in 6 years. That's a big deal, for example. So I know there's currently a committee going on this year to examine that. Where can we find money to continue to retain high-quality teachers? It's not okay that for teachers who were first-year teachers 3 years ago haven't had a step increase. They're still making the same as a new first-year teacher that starts this year. So I think looking at where can we get money, whether it's grant opportunities or from our current funding, or how do we increase this funding, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Barkowiak?
Well, I think in conjunction with our brand new superintendent, who has brought fresh ideas and fresh opportunities and a fresh new look at the school district, also with the opportunity of having some new school board members on the school board with some fresh ideas, some innovative ideas, being able to look at it from maybe a different perspective. My kids I have two that are special needs, so I bring a slightly new twist to the board. I think they have gone through the special ed department here in the school district, and I can't say anything but positive things about that. So I think with just some fresh new eyes, I'm open to suggestions from the community. I'm open to thoughts as to what they would like to see the school do in this coming year.
Thank you very much. Mr. Barton?
Yeah. Well, with the new superintendent, we may well be able to find some ways to improve student achievement, particularly ways that I might not be thinking of at this time. Since he has more experience in doing that than I do. But I would also want to say that given how poor the science education is for most teachers, I've read their textbooks, and a typical elementary teacher basically gets hand-waving level science. It's little more than Aristotle, modernized Aristotle. So any pay increase, I think, needs to go outside the standard union scale to bring in the math and science specialists who, because of the industrial opportunities that they have, require higher salaries than standard scale.
Thank you very much.
Am I able to make a correction? Or no?
Yes,
to
you are
Mr.
able to
Barton?
rebut, yes.
Okay, just, the pay scale is not just a union pay scale. It is a pay scale that has been agreed upon by the Board of Education in our community, the Teachers Association, the administrators, and the superintendent. All have agreed and signed to the teacher pay scale, which is part of the master agreement. Thank you.
The master agreement here is pretty much a union standard pay scale that is used in a lot of districts. And we need to find ways around that pay scale to get the specialist teachers that you actually need if you're going to get anywhere in math and science. And you look at those scores, 28% being proficient, you've got to do something.
Thank you. Just future reference, there will be a question about compensation that's coming up, so prepare yourselves mentally for that. I was remiss in starting a little nerves and messed up Larry's name, did the stuff like that, but I wanted to commend you all for participating in the process. I think it takes a special person to actually throw your name in the hat and get involved. So thank you very much as a citizen of Canyon City. Thank you very much for participating in the process. That's very important. In that vein, Mr. Harwood, what is the reason? Why are you running for the board? And what would be some of your personal objectives that you'd like to try to accomplish?
Well, when I ran 4 years ago, I've always had a love for education, and my kids' education and their involvement, that's why I originally ran for the school board the first time. During those years, we spent just cutting due to the recession, not just cut. That was really the focus, to just maintain what we had. Now, like I said, we're starting to be able to turn those things around, and one of my objectives has been said by most everybody, but it is recruiting and retaining qualified and the very best in teachers and support staff that we can. Maintaining and actually improving our financial situation. I mean, we do need to put more money in reserves. We haven't been able to do that, and we absolutely have got to put money in reserves, as well as finding new opportunities for students, particularly in the high school level, to give them, to make them ready no matter what they want to do. So those are my main three objectives.
Thank you very much. Ms. Economy?
Hi. So I'm running for school board because I feel I provide a unique perspective as a mother of 2 young children who haven't even started their public education careers yet. They're about to. My son will be in kindergarten next year, and I feel that perspective is, with my kids about to enter public schooling, is often underrepresented on the boards. That combined with my education experience, I know what it's like to advocate for children. I feel it's the board's #1 responsibility to advocate for these children. We are there for them to ensure that they get the best quality education that they can get. And we have to figure out what are the ways, what are the means through which they will receive this best education, whether it's looking at salaries to retain these high quality teachers, vocational education, safety of our children. I'm going to advocate for children.
Thank you. Ms. Bartowiak?
You'll get it by the end.
I'm going to get it. It's going to flow
I
off
guess
my
the
tongue
easy
here.
answer to this is that my husband and my kids talked me into running for school board, which is kind of interesting that high school students did, but they thought, why not, Mom? You've got some great ideas. You love the community. You moved here to a small community. I want to see the school system flourish, which is going to also make this community flourish. I want to live in a community that's not dying. I want to live in a community that's thriving. I want to live in a community that brings new businesses, new people, that we keep our high school kids after they graduate. Maybe they go off to college, but they do want to come back to Canyon City, that we can bring young couples to this town. And the school system is the foundation, one of the foundations of a community. And I want to be a part of that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Barton.
Okay. One of the reasons is that a lot of the kids I have talked to who are in the high school, junior, senior age range seem hopelessly unprepared for college. There's a lot that needs to be done to actually get them ready for it that apparently is not being done. I've been through 5 degrees now, and so I know what it will take for them to succeed. Now, also, in industry, we need to have people who are better than a lot of the graduates who are now in the system. And as a taxpayer, the taxpayers really want to see their funds used efficiently to get the best product possible, the best educated student possible. And taxpayers are historically underrepresented on school boards.
Thank you very much. Mr. Otto.
Oh, sure. When I first ran 4 years ago, it was primarily in my mind that I had 2 things. I wanted to have a good school system because I viewed it as a major economic development driver, getting businesses to move here, people to move here, and that's always been my focus, is the economics of it. The other thing is that at the time I knew that Dr. Goldie was contemplating retirement and would be retiring over the next 4 years, and I wanted to have a say over who next superintendent of the school system was going to be, because I felt that transition was going to be important to move the school district forward and make some further improvements on the programs that Dr. Goldie started. Over the last 4 years, it's been a little more personal. I've become really vested in the children in our community, and I feel that it's our duty to give them the best education that we can, given our limited resources. With my background, I have the greatest understanding of the budget situation. I know what programs have been gutted during the recession and what needs to be restored.
Thank you. Okay, we got everybody on that round, correct? All right, this is an interesting one in light of our prior discussion in the rebut there. Ms. Economy, how should teacher performance be measured, and what are some of the challenges evaluating teachers and compensating them accordingly?
Well, can you repeat the second part of it? How?
What are some of the challenges inherent in evaluating teachers and compensating them accordingly?
Okay. Ooh, this is a big question. Teacher performance is measured constantly. Teachers are being evaluated by their administrators, at least formally, at least once a year, often twice a year. The principals and assistant principals will often just come by informally to just see what teachers are doing on an everyday basis. But all of that paints a picture of that educator. And that goes into this teacher's evaluation, all different perspectives, gosh, based upon these different teacher standards. It's really kind of complicated. But once the principal does the evaluation of the teacher, he is able to say, hey, this person is, at the standard, above the standard, below standard, and then from there, teachers are able to continue. There are a lot of, oh gosh, I can't even get to the second part because there's so much to talk about. Thank you. I'm just going to end there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Barkowiak.
I agree, this is a loaded question. But I come from a school district in Orlando where the state mandated test, the FCAT, is a pass-fail for the students in 3rd, 8th, and high school. And so those teachers are held to teaching out of workbooks all day, every day of the school year. And now they've tied that compensation, teacher compensation, to those test scores solely. And I am totally in disagreement of that. I obviously think teachers do need to be evaluated. It is a job. But I think it's a soup. It's a lot of different things. It is their daily skills with the students. The test scores can be a part of that, but it can't be the sole ingredient of the soup. But I think it needs to be a combination of a lot of different things. And I'm interested to see how they do it now and how we can do it better.
Thank you. Mr. Barton?
I've personally not yet been involved in evaluating teacher performance. However, I like objective measures. The Test scores should be considered, especially the increase in performance of students over the course of the year. But we also have to balance that with the type of student in each class is not always going to be the same. It would not be fair to grade the increase of test scores of a special ed classroom versus a normal classroom or similar. So subjective measures also have a role. So I'd be looking for some sort of a balanced measure that weights both the objective and some subjective measures.
Thank you. Mr. Otto?
And
I'm sorry.
get those math and science specialists in there.
Thank you. Mr. Otto?
Okay, merit compensation for teachers, that's a tough proposition. I looked at that, and over the last 4 years, I realized how tough a proposition that really is. Kind of cuts away at the cornerstone of education, being in that collegial atmosphere, creates a feeling of competitiveness, and I don't necessarily think it belongs in that particular environment. A fair evaluation for the teachers, one that takes all elements that are not in the teacher's control out of the equation, should be, and there is a teacher evaluation committee that has started work with the implementation of SB 191, that's teacher effectiveness legislation. And they're doing it with fidelity, and they're taking into account a lot of the things that we spoke about as being what's more important to their evaluation than test scores. And, well, there's also, Kristen mentioned the teacher salary committee. They're also looking at ways to actually get a little creative with the pot of money that we have to compensate our teachers.
Thank you. Mr. Harwood?
Well, I hate to sound like a broken record, but for teacher evaluation, Senate Bill 191, there is that format that's coming into play. To me, you really have to look at what the teacher's doing day to day in the classroom, which is the responsibility of the administrator of that building, the superintendent as well. Being in the classroom, seeing how the classroom is operating, but not putting the teachers under so much stress. And I think we kind of get tight. We're getting too, the teachers have to worry too much about their evaluation, but they need to be focusing on teaching those students. I don't think a lot of the testing scores, our PARCC testing scores, should be tied into that for the simple reason. When they're testing, for me, I was a terrible test taker. I might know the subject, but when I'm under pressure of the test, I probably wouldn't do that well. There's a lot of different factors that go into testing, and I don't think that you can really hold the teachers. Yes, they need to be held accountable, but that should not be the majority of it.
Thank you very much. So did we catch the whole side there? Good.
Yes.
Ms. Barkowiak. This is certainly, somebody said loaded question. Were you the one that said loaded question before?
Probably.
Wait till you hear this one.
Sounds like me.
Like multiple parts.
A lot of people last year protested and expressed concern about the Common Core curriculum. What are your thoughts?
Interesting, because one of my classes that I teach for the hospital, somebody asked me about Common Core curriculum, so I started researching it. And I found out that I guess it started with math and science, and it started with some really great ideas. And it just blew up into something that couldn't happen. It was tried to be implemented K to 12, all different subjects, all these other subjects came into play, and not just math and science. So from what I've researched and what I've been told by teachers in our community, as well as I come from a family of teachers, that the original concept was a great idea, but the implementation of it failed miserably. And so I would be interested in looking back at it again, but let's implement it a little bit better.
Thank you. Mr. Barton?
Okay. One of the reasons I got into this race is I've started by reading what has been published in both the English and math standards for Common Core. They appear sensible at first glance. When you dig into it, though, you'll find that Appendix B, which is a suggested reading list, is very politically slanted and anti-American to the point where authors that you will be expecting the students to read include, well, just as an example, if you're reading from the 60s, Martin Luther King is the only one on the list twice. The Vietnam War is not covered. The math standards, the mathematician on the panel, the sole mathematician, resigned in protest. It is a rewarmed Pearson failed new math.
Thank you. Mr. Otto.
Common Core standards are just baseline expectations of what a group of educators felt as though our kids should be learning from K through 12. They were adopted by the state of Colorado, embedded in the Colorado standards. The value of the standards is actually kids moving from one district to another can have some kind of consistency on what they're learning when they're moving. It also gives us as a district a benchmark and to see how our kids are doing compared to other districts. Easy for me to say, I think it's a lot of hubbub over nothing. Implementation of it certainly has been a problem with the overload of assessments. But we still have local control over our curriculum. We just need to make sure that that curriculum addresses the standards that our kids need to learn in order for us to perform well as a district.
Have you read Appendix B?
What's that?
Have you read Appendix B?
Appendix B is suggestions, and certainly not anything that we use here in the district.
Mr. Harwood.
Yeah, Common Core is that big, ugly monster that's in the closet that everyone's afraid of. It's exactly like Larry said. Common Core is not a curriculum, and I think people get it confused that it's a curriculum. It's not a curriculum. This school board has 100% control over the curriculum that is inside the classrooms. We have 100% control over how it is taught in the school district. Yet that is not mandated or dictated by Common Core. It is a list, and is exactly like Larry said. So I think people need to realize that we do have control over that curriculum. We haven't had the money. There hasn't been a lot of new curriculum since way before Common Core even came into play. So, there's no, we don't have those textbooks like he's talking about, the new textbooks, and in that way, there's no novels or topics or essays in English that you're required to do by Common Core. That does not happen in this district. So.
Thank you. Mr. Barton, Mr. Harwood did reference you specifically. Did you want to take a 30-second rebut?
Well, I'd just like to say a couple more things about Common Core. We do need to find a way of balancing passing the state tests, which are in part based on Common Core, and actual effective instruction, so that our students will both do well on the test and do well in life later on. I'm just not sure exactly what that balance will be yet.
Thank you. Mr. Harwood, further comments?
I agree. No.
Ms. Economy, you get to bring this one home.
All right. Common Core, like has already been said, it's kind of, everybody hears about it, but not very many people really deal with it from the day-to-day. I've spoken with a lot of educators, I've spoken with a lot of parents, some who like Common Core, some who don't like Common Core, some who are just like, well, let's just see what we can do with it. And, one teacher did tell me, she's like, what's wrong with igniting deeper thinking skills? That goes back to some of the original intent of the Common Core. I know some teachers who have been working really hard to align their curriculums and to develop those deeper thinking skills within their students. And like these guys have mentioned over here, locally, we still have control over our curriculums, like what we're teaching. We have control over textbook adoption. There are committees for that when it's time to adopt new textbooks, and those committees can receive public input as well. So I would just say, let's continue to align as the best we can and try to find funding for that alignment.
Thank you. It should come as no surprise that our school board candidates have done a very good job of sticking to the rules and maintaining their 1 minute. So we are actually at a very rare situation where we're approximately 5 minutes ahead of time. So I'm going to suggest to our timer that she increase this last section to 2 minutes. Is that possible? Okay, and so this is your opportunity now to do your final 2 minutes. Say anything that you'd like, encapsulate what you've said today or what you haven't had an opportunity to say. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Barton is the leadoff.
Ooh, okay. Well, what we see in our current schools is mediocre academic success and physical plant that is in need of revival. So what I propose to do, should I be elected, is to bring in math and science specialists to better the performance in those areas that are particularly underperforming on the exams, and set aside the reserves we need so that in a few years' time we can get those roofs repaired if the current grant proposals don't pan out. Then, as representing the taxpayer, I want to make sure that the funds that we do spend are spent efficiently on the goals of educating the students and maintaining the buildings. In order to educate the students, we need to find a way to pass those state exams while using actually effective techniques such as the ones Richard Feynman was thinking of way back in '65 to teach math in a way where students actually can see its usefulness in the sciences and bring our students into the 21st century, not into the 15th century of pre-Aristotle, of Aristotelian physics that most of our current teachers are exposed to in school.
Thank you. Mr. Otto?
Well, I'd like to open by saying that I've thoroughly enjoyed the privilege of serving as a board member the last 4 years, and I also thank the fellow candidates up here that are actually throwing their hat in the ring. 3 of you I understand perfectly. 2 of us, I have no idea what we're doing at. However, the landscape of Colorado public education is rapidly changing. It's important to have an experienced board that has experience with those reforms and has knowledge of them to be on the board. We have a new superintendent, as I mentioned before. His transition would be greatly enhanced by having an experienced board. And then state funding for schools, hate to say it, is not going to see any major increases anytime soon. So therefore, making smart financial decisions will continue to be play a major part in the board's role. People either lead with their heart or their head. I'd say that most people running for the school board lead with their heart. I, on the other hand, openly admit that I lead with my head. And while that is important on any governing board, I also have a very strong understanding of the emotional reality that the policies and the decisions we make, they impact several lives in our community, but small lives. We serve the community with a difficult double charge, and that is to spend the taxpayers' money wisely, but also to provide the best education we can for our kids with the limited resources we have. Because of that charge, I've heard people say that serving on the Board of Education is a thankless job. I disagree. To me, there is great satisfaction in providing solid leadership, collaboration, and governance when the stakes are high. And when you believe you are the best person for the job and you can actually pull it off. With a $36 million budget, the education of more than 3,600 kids, and the employment of more than 500 education professionals, the stakes are high. Please get out and vote for the local school board that you want.
Thank you very much.
It makes me feel bad I didn't prepare my closing statement. Can I just copy Larry?
I was going to say, could you just pass his down to us?
You know, I also
You can use your 2 minutes however you would like.
I have also enjoyed serving on the board. It's been an eye-opener. When I went on the board, that's when the recession really hit. And when I went on there, I didn't expect that all we were going to be doing for really that first term is just making cuts and making cuts and making cuts. And it's it's very difficult trying to make those cuts and still provide the very best for our children, because again, that's why we're here. We're here for the kids. You know, to be a school board member, you do it because you love the kids, you love education, you don't get paid for it, and it's close to being a full-time job. It's another part-time job. It's not just showing up for 2 meetings a month saying I've done my part. It's about being in the schools yourself, talking to parents, talking to the teachers, talking to the support staff, talking to the taxpayers about what they want for education. We do have a new superintendent that's coming on. I really see great things for our school district in the upcoming years. I would like to bring my experience with the 4 years I've already been on the board to kind of make that a seamless transition for our school district. I don't remember what your last line was, but I ditto what Larry had to say. But and I also want to thank all the candidates that are here. Good ideas. It's a great position to have. And yes, I would like another opportunity to be on the school board, but ultimately vote for who you think is the best. And please get out and vote and encourage your fellow citizens to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Economy.
Hi. So this kind of reminds me, you guys like looking and smiling at us. Oh, new freshman candidates. Reminds me of when I was pregnant with my first son, my first child, and everybody would look at me and smile and say, oh, a baby. And they were smiling because they knew exactly what I was getting into, and I had no idea. So, however, I would hope that my educational background would provide me with a good idea of what happens. I've been through the collective bargaining process. I've been through the presentations by the district's CFO, Betty Lambright. I've seen all those charts with the dollars, and I know where the money's being spent. But beyond that, like I mentioned earlier, healthy schools equal a healthy community. We really need to get behind our schools, our students, our educators, our education support personnel, and dig out of this Great Recession. I know over the Great Recession years, the school district lost about $3 million. They had to cut $3 million out of the budget, and that was several positions and programs, and the board did a great job of doing the best that they could to weather the storm. Absolutely, it's hard. How do you figure out $3 million? That's a big chunk of change for a small district. But now we're gonna move forward, and things are recovering. And as we recover, we need to figure out what do we need to reinvest our money in. You know, let's improve morale among our teachers and say, yes, you're worth it. We wanna keep you here. Yes, our students who don't need to go to college or don't want to go to college, let's prepare you for a trade when you're done with school. Let's attract new businesses by taking pride in our local education. Let's get those businesses to bring jobs here, to bring, like you said, absolutely, new families. That's a new tax base for more money to come in so that we can properly fund education. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Barkowiak.
Last but not least, closing statements. So I do believe the school system is the foundation and the future of our community. And I believe in this community. That's why I moved here 8 years ago. I'm a firm believer in our school system and the administration, the new superintendent that the current board has brought on. I believe in the teachers, the paras, the staff at each of the schools. I believe in the students, that they know what's right and wrong. They know what they can do, and we just need to help them with that. I'm a firm believer in growing our community. Like I've said, I do have personal knowledge of this school district. I was the district RN for several years. I actually own a local business, my husband and I here in town, Family Feeds, and I actually own a home in the mountains in the Tallahassee area and one here in Canyon City. So I understand the perils that happen with a community, an urban and a rural community. I understand the perils of businesses, but really the school system, I mean, how many people move to a town and don't look at the school system before buying a home? So it is truly the foundation. Being a part of this board, it would be my honor to serve on this board, and I do welcome any and all involvement in the community. I welcome any questions that you have of me, and thank you this evening. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
And read your ballot instructions. There is more than one vacancy. You can vote for more than one candidate. Read the instructions.
That's good advice. Thank you very much. Let's give a hand for all of the candidates. I had an opportunity to get to know one of our city council people. His name was Kevin Ditmore, and unfortunately, we lost Kevin. But he gave me some advice that I'd like to pass along to you guys. When you run for office, the most important thing at that point in time is getting elected. But when you don't get elected, the second most important thing is what you do with this energy and this creativity that you're bringing to the community. So even though not all of you are going to get elected, all of you can play a very significant role in your community going forward. So that's the challenge. Take that on and be involved. That's a critical piece. So thank you very much on behalf of the Canyon City Daily Record, KRLN Radio, and the Chamber of Commerce of Canyon City. Thank you very much.